All right, we are back at it once again. I'm joined, as always, by my illustrious co-host, Sam Allen, in the building. Sam, what's good?
What's happening? Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, people. I'm so hyped for today's guest. I'm going to try to contain my excitement and keep it professional because me and this guy have some very awesome professional stories and some unprofessional stories. But maybe one of the more illustrious guests we've had on the show so far. Quick bio. Our guest today's name is Justin Stommes. He's from Minnesota. He started at Rocori High School. He's Rocori's only Division I basketball player, at least at the time of what I found online. And he set a school record scoring 40 points in a game and was the 3A Minnesota Player of the Year. Justin went on to star at Eastern Kentucky. His career stats there, 10 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists. And his junior year, he dropped 14 points a game, 4 boards, and 3.5 assists. He went on to play professionally 5 years overseas in Germany, Finland, Belgium, the Netherlands. Quick tidbit, he never shot less than 40% from 3 throughout his entire college career, lights out shooter. And I believe he is the only player ever in Pro A Germany to shoot over 50% from the field for an entire season. Absolute lights out shooter. And he would go on after that overseas period to be the Rookie of the Year in the Drew League and absolutely shut the Drew League down. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Justin Stommes.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
What's good, my guy?
Welcome.
Hey, not too much.
You're in the middle of a storm in Minnesota right now, and that still couldn't stop you from being on the podcast, huh?
Oh, yeah, we get it done regardless of what it is. But, yeah, it's a little different weather out here, that's for sure.
Gotta respect it. Gotta respect
it. I appreciate you for being here, brother. Let's hop right into it. Let us know, when did your basketball journey begin?
Yeah, I think it was, like a lot of kids, it starts when you're young, you see something maybe, and you try and emulate it. And I didn't have big athletes as parents, they did a little things. But I don't know where we started going to basketball games at the high school. Dad always took us out when we were young to games. Saw a couple players at Rocori that, they look like legends to me when I'm out there. So I'm like, all right, let me give this a try. Because I don't know how it was when you guys were at, elementary school, but we played football at lunch every day, right? There was no basketball kids getting on the court. We were playing 10 versus 10 football games at lunch. So it was something that came on a little bit later, but yeah, I think first just seeing people and going to games, and I just got a thrill for it. And then as I grew up, I really stuck to it. I think it was just the seclusion of it. Small town, there's not a lot to do anyway. So this gave me something I was really into. And then all of a sudden, seeing the guys on TV, MJ, Kobe, because we didn't get a lot of channels, we're out in the sticks and everything. So there's not a ton of channels. So you see those guys on there and just picked it up, started playing. Was never that good, especially when I was young. It was more of a thing where I had this burning desire to play, and that just kind of pushed forward as I got a little bit older. I did a few more things, and then I hit the growth spurt like a lot of these guys do, and that kind of propelled my career.
Awesome. When will you start getting to understanding you were good and better than everybody else? Do you have a grade or a moment or a time period?
No, I think it was because I thought about that earlier. I think it was more so just with the experience and seeing it. So I was just a solid player, moved up and down. I didn't really play much varsity freshman or sophomore year at all, had an okay junior year, but then I played 1 year at AAU. And going out of state and getting to see the other talent and, learning but just the experience it brings. And then, you want to win. I'm a big time competitor. I've
Absolutely
yet to find anything that compares to basketball. So, but you do that and it's awesome.
Yeah. Did you play youth league football, and did you play any other sports as well?
Yep. Growing up, I was like 3 sports, football, basketball, baseball, and played them all. Was just okay at all of them, but enjoyed them. We had the little leagues in all the towns, things like that. It was a high school coach, actually, Bob Brink. I was a freshman and I was playing baseball. It was in the spring. He said, "You know what?" He's like, I think you'd be a great basketball player, but you should probably give all these other ones a rest. You know, I saw you in football. I'm watching you in baseball. You know, you're you're doing okay, but maybe come try this out. And I think it was somebody believing in me just like that, because as you're growing up, you kind of need that reassurance if you're going to take something to the next level, whether it be, parents or coaches, them just telling you, I see something in you. And then them, obviously passing on that knowledge is key to the whole thing.
Was he one of your first coaches? Did he like bring you into his team or high school, middle school?
Yep. So he was the high school coach. Man had coached high school there, I think, since the high school started almost. He had coached like 40 years maybe. He's the
Legend.
second all-time winningest coach. Yeah, he's a beast. He's a beast. And yeah, but he also was the one who kind of changed the game for me and turned my career, because I was about 6 foot going into my freshman year. And then that summer after, I grew like 7 inches within like a 6 month a year. And instead of him, sticking me in the post at that point, he always saw that like I took care of the ball. And then one of my skills, especially when I was young, long, lanky, is I would get in the open court, push the ball, and I was just good, right? 3-on-2,
Yeah.
2-on-1, I can make the play,
Guard
pass.
skills.
So he let me stay at the point, and then that kind of changed. Yeah, as I got older and did AAU. AAU was the big one. I got some fun stories for there too. So we went down to, it's funny, it was in Kentucky. And we had played a morning game. I had just finished up. I went and sat by the side. And, if you've ever been there, they got like 16 courts, maybe more.
All at once, yeah.
Center, basically. I don't know if you played there or not, Al. So it's crazy. It's hectic, this now. I went by one of these side doors, right? Just to set my stuff down, get my gear on, think it out, get ready. I'll never forget, this guy came up to me and he's like, "Hey, bud, can I get through there?" I was just like, looked up. "Oh, yeah, for sure." Grabbed my stuff and stood up. And then when I stood up, I was looking face to face with Michael Jordan. And I was like, "Man, what? No way." And then they walked him through, and it was so funny. There was like a barricaded part off, and there were Hummers on the other side where he had parked, And then after that, it was crazy. They had to rope him off the next few days once everyone knew he was there. But it was early that morning, so he had kind of gotten in and nobody had known yet. And then he was on his way out after those games were ending, and I was getting ready, and I saw him. And just things like that, right? When you see somebody you had kind of grown up, obviously for me, it was an adoration, especially when I was younger. Man, I bring out my Bulls 96 blanket, and hang it in the background of the living room. I got my little MJ jersey on, cheering. I would take those Jazz, if the Jazz would come out on top, I would just be crying, as a kid. MJ all day. He was my guy to start. So, yeah, but that was just one I remember seeing somebody like that. Was like, damn, all right, well, this is cool. Now I've seen them, like I want to keep trying to be like them, because everyone's trying to emulate their game, or they're just seeing them,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds like Mike, but were there other players, be it pro or in your area, that you saw and tried to pattern your game after?
Yep. So there's a big one, actually. It's funny. He's only, I think, 3 years older than me. If you ever heard of Isaiah Dahlman from Minnesota, because this is when I think I'm at that freshman, sophomore stage, and he's like a junior, senior from a small town Bramp, just killing it. Lefty, smooth, silky. I think he held the state scoring title for a bit, went to Michigan State with Izzo. And I remember watching him, because the same thing, they had televised the state tournament. So I would be seeing that, and he would just be eating guys, and it was just, so I grew up for a few years just working on his thing, right? Honestly, that's where I got my hesitation from. Because that's probably my best move. Guys who's played with me, my little hesitation is from Isaiah Dahlman, because I'd watch him on the state tournament. I would record these games, right? We didn't have a ton of channels again. So I'd record these games and play them back. I'll never forget because he would average like 36. He would just come to the top of the key, hezzy, right? If they bit, he's driving, he's going to finish, might dunk. And then otherwise he's hezzy, and if they slide with him, he's just going to spin. and he's shooting a floater. Instead of like spinning and fading, he's shooting a floater towards the basket, and he hit it so much, and he would bank it sometimes. And I just remember I started doing that move all the time in the gym, and it took a
That's
while for him
cool.
to finally catch on. But yeah, so that was like the hometown guy. There was another one from our hometown, Jason Crone. He was a stud, great defender. You know, he was a D2. St. Cloud State, I don't know if they won it, but they were right there at the end for Division II championships. Probably a guy who could have went possibly D1 from the school. But yeah, he's a big outdoors guy. When I go home and do a little outdoor stuff with him, you know, put on the camo, get out in the woods, that's where I go with. Yeah, so he's a good
That's
one.
cool.
Yeah, guys from the area, and then of course Kobe, right? I
Yeah.
was, you know, everything Kobe, like most people were. You just these people, their personalities, you know, just encapsulate everything you see and how you want to portray yourself. You know, their answers when they speak are thought out. You know, they're taking their time in between answers. They're thinking it out, not just spilling. So yeah, for sure, those guys, just idols.
When did you start getting recruited out of high school?
Um, I would say after my junior year, because we went to the state tournament sophomore, junior, and senior year. My junior year after the state tournament, did all right in the state tournament. We lost first round to St. Thomas, a team that literally beat us the next year too, in an even crazier way. But after that game, I started hearing from a few D2 things, smaller schools like that, and then yeah, it wasn't until I did AU the next year. So after I had this coach, right, he was kind of a lifesaver too. So I give a lot of credit to the coaches in my life, because I had Bob Brink, who let me play point guard. And then I had Charlie Paxson. He ran Minnesota Glory. It was a Christian-based program, but he just came to a game, and literally he ended up sitting next to my dad. It was kind of fate. And he looked over and he just said to the guy, he said, you know, that kid, he's going to play for my AU program next year. And my dad was like, yeah, right, he is, you know. My dad's was like, you know, my dad's my biggest fan. We were loving it the whole time. You know, we used to talk a lot of shit, and I still do with Pops, but just about hoops. And, you know, you brag yourself up and you let your dad knock you down, and it's fun banter. But so he said that, and then I'll never forget, you know, I went to the tryout, and at that point I'm still questioning myself, because I haven't left the state yet. You know, this is the first time I'm playing out of central Minnesota, where there are some small teams. So there's different aspects that come into play, you know, when you do play against better people, better athletes, everything like
Right.
that, different systems. um, and I went to that tryout, and I just did a couple things, and then I was dunking. This was like everything was starting to click at that junior level. I started dunking. And I remember I went to the tryout, and you know, I knew I was going to make the team because I felt confident in myself, but at the same time I was worried. But I'll never forget, I like came out there and I missed one. I think I missed two. Now it's like, oh shit, maybe I'm not gonna make the team. And I'll never forget, like I came down like in and out of somebody, and then just boom, went and dunked on some dude. He wasn't quite 7 feet, but you know, one of the big guys.
Big
Now
dude, yeah.
like, okay, I'm making this team. You know, I'm back on board like that. But I think that's part of the things that I loved about basketball, and what it did outside of other things is the fear it instilled in me. Like anytime I felt that my game was getting inadequate, like if I took a little bit too much time off in the summer or something like that, or if I just noticed something wasn't sharp, like I love to go work on it. It's really something that if you dedicate it to, it's going to pay you back. I know I always tried to tell you, Al, when you were still playing and I was done, just you're not even going to see what the game's done for you until you quit, because that's when you get a second to, you know, actually stop and look like, oh my God, I got to play overseas, live in these countries for 9 months a year, make a living, you know, set myself up, and but just have like summers off. You know, it doesn't get much better. So yeah, it's those are great parts about it, obviously.
For sure, we're gonna have to spend quite a bit of time on the pro level, but well, you know, let's tell the backstory before we get there first. You had an incredible pro career, but before we jump to college and that process, I'm really curious about your shot. Was that natural? Was that just, man, I just picked up the ball and this is how I comfortably started shooting, or did somebody teach you proper form and fundamentals? Because you are one of the best shooters I've ever played with, and I'm sure kids would want to know, man, how do I get deadly accurate? And
Yeah.
so can you touch on that, how your shot developed?
Yeah, for sure. So shooting is kind of funny for me because yeah, when I was younger, seventh grade, everything like that, and even before that, wasn't really a great shooter. I was shooting a little bit, I was working out. I was just more playing the game. I didn't know what workouts actually were, right? Where you drill repetition, feverishly. But I just remember doing that. And I'd always brought the ball so far back and so far low, right? It almost touched my shoulder because I was weak, right? I was real skinny, skinnier than I am now. I graduated even at 6'7", 175, just
Wow.
yeah,
Light.
goes
Wow.
tiny. But so when I was younger, I always had it like that. And this is, I'm telling you, I used to record Kobe's games. I used to record a couple high school ones. And I watched how Kobe shot the basketball, right? I watched how he shot it. And then what I did is we had this bay window outside, and I went and I would look at this bay window and I would shoot the ball up on the roof. But what I would do is I would make sure that my elbow, everything was straight. I'd do it from different angles and things like that. And I would do that just before I would start shooting hoops. And then obviously as I got stronger, you learn more. That helped, but and then it just became drilling. So yeah, it went from there. And I always shot it. My thing I believe in kind of is I always shot from the top of the key. Like I would drill some of the other spots, but if I'm going to get up like 200-300 shots, I'm going to shoot most of them, a majority from the very top of the key, just because at that point, I'm going to be able to tell every single miss is going to be easy for me to tell. Where if I'm shooting in the corner, then I'm worrying about the side of the backboard sometimes, or it just comes into play a little bit, So I always shot at the top of the key. I had a college coach who told me that, and that helped. But I just think it was yeah, the reps. But I always just truly believed it, and I wouldn't stop. My big thing is, you shoot it and it might not feel good, and you're just like, damn. But my thing was always I would shoot it, and after it was gone, even if it wasn't looking great, I'm just thinking in my mind like it's going in, right until
Supreme
I
confidence.
was the entire time. And then it's funny how sometimes they just go in too, It's almost like the ball curves. You feel like, at least I've had that scenario, but yeah, a lot of drilling and then just straight on was my big thing.
I love what you're saying about the drill work though. And you fell in love, it sounds like, with working out, which I did as well, which I know Sam has done. And I just think this idea, besides the kids that are born just to freakish athletic parents and have their growth spurts show super early, I don't believe in people being just blessed with natural talent. I think that's such a fake term. I think everybody has to put in some level of work. You may be blessed with height or, maybe a little bit more raw athleticism, but basketball is a game of skill.
Pure
And it takes
skill.
more than just being athletic or big or strong or tall to master this game. So I'm really happy because to me, watching you shoot, it seems so effortless and it seems so natural that I feel, even at that time, I was thinking to myself, man, he's probably just been shooting lights out since he was 5 and it just clicked early. But it's cool to hear that you weren't, lights out like that at the start of your high school career, but you fell in love with working on it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
A pretty consistent theme too of everybody that we've talked to is just falling in love with the grind itself and just putting in hours and the reps when people aren't normally doing so, and just getting a real high capacity to do that at an early age in high school before they even, and then being able to blossom once the game gets a little slower, a little faster.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and mine came with a little addition. I got lucky in that sense too, because it was about ninth grade. I remember I got moved up to 10th grade. I'm hyped. Right now I'm feeling so good. And then a couple games later, I played all right, but they moved me down and moved somebody up. And I remember I just went to my dad and I was broken, just hurt. And I'll never forget, he came to me and he was like, all right, so what we're gonna do is this. He's like, if you really want it, he kind of supported me, like, it doesn't matter to me, I'm here for you. But if you really want it, I'm gonna start dropping you off at the gym when I go to work. He went to work, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And he would drop me off at the gym and my high school coach would let me in. And I would just be in there in the morning. And it's a big confidence thing for me. I think that's what I realized, when when you're really putting in that work, what you're gaining from that is a confidence. There's a thought process going on in your mind, knowing that, you know, nobody else is out here right now. I remember putting on gloves in the middle of winter in this Minnesota weather, you know, when I was younger, and I'd go out there and just start shooting hoops, shovel the driveway just so I could shoot hoops. You know, it was almost like a free pass for my dad, you know, because I was going to be out there after the storm the next morning shoveling that driveway just so I could shoot hoops. So, yeah, I think a big thing was just the confidence of that. And yeah, and I kind of swayed away from it earlier when you asked me about recruiting. So it started that year, but I talked about when I played AU. So I went down to nationals in Florida. And this is where it all kind of changed, and a lot of things changed down there. So I went down to nationals in Florida. The first game we played, I don't know if you've heard of them, Team Nike Florida Elite. They had Chandler Parsons, Nick Kalathis, Alan Anderson, something like that. Not the guy from Michigan State, but so we went down there and played. And I'll never forget it. Before the game, I'm seeing guys like Billy Donovan in the stands, Jason Williams, White Chocolate. He's in the stands, right, for this AAU game, and it's only our gym at this point. It's not in a big thing, so they came there for the game. And we played, and I did really well, right? That was kind of a breakout moment for me. I played really well. I was giving out buckets to Parsons and Kalathis, and it was just fantastic. They beat us right at the end. But what happened there was that Chandler Parsons had just decommitted from Florida State. So he had opened back up his recruiting thing, and he was a monster recruit. So everyone was there at the game, and I had a big game, and that put all eyes on me. And then I remember seeing White Chocolate. I was just like, you know, just a further motivator. But yeah, that was a little on the recruiting part of it.
How'd you go about choosing Eastern Kentucky?
Yep. So that's funny. That was a story for me that it happened quickly. So, you know, it all kind of blew up after I got back from that. Had some people who had came, you know, they flew up and watched me play, just practice, not even during the season, just practice like before the season, like with some of the Ricori guys. They would follow up, and they flew up there a couple of times in the middle of winter. So I thought that was cool. They had an assistant coach, Ted Hotow, and he's the coolest dude I know. And yeah, he would just all the time, you know, we were arguing about Kobe Jordan at that point, and we were always just going back and forth. But what had happened is, so they were always on me early. Bigger schools started coming after that one, but I got my visit set up, right? When are we going down there? We're going down there on Halloween weekend. Or right before, right? So I'm from this
Pretty
small
legendary
town.
time to go visit a college campus for the young kids watching. Halloween weekend's a pretty great time to get a vibe of a school.
Oh my goodness, right? So then I go down there, and what happens is, you know, you go eat the meal, you see everything like they always do. You know, they bring you here, get pitched by this person, bring you here. This is why you want to come to school educationally, right? We got this, that, and all. They bring you around and just, you know, they make it the best. You're having a good time. All right, you have dinner always. And my parents didn't go with me, right? I said, no, I think I want to do this one on my own, you know. Just I was young, you know, ill-informed, but so I went down there by myself, and I'll never forget. I was there after the thing. My boy Josh Daniel, he's a great guy, West Virginia boy. He's like, and they give him like $50, right, to take you to the bowling alley to go have some good fun. What I'm sure they're thinking, but he's like, so you want to go to a party or you want to go back to the hotel? And I was just like, man, that don't sound like a, you know, much of a choice. Like I'm trying to go to the hotel. So I'm like, yeah, let's go to this party. I'll never walked in there. It was a bunch of Southern belles, and I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this works for me.
That did it, huh?
The boys were cool, but I had never seen anything like this. It's Halloween, you know. This is all right. This way, yep.
Yeah. Can you describe the campus just a little bit? I've never been to Eastern Kentucky. I'm not familiar with the arena, but what's the vibe there? How big's the student pop to your memory?
Yeah, I think the student population was 15 or so. It might be 18, somewhere around there. So it was decent sized. It wasn't like you know, UK and Lexington there or anything like that. But no, great people there. And the facilities, they were nice. McBrayer Arena is the place we played, and I always enjoyed it. They actually had a couple cool things I really like. And this was if I would ever put a basketball hoop in my house, this is what it'd be. They had 2 baskets up there. You know, they had the main court, and then there was just a little side section where they had hoops. But they were only probably, 45, 50 feet away, just a little bit more than half court, but just so, and I would never forget, we'd just go play one-on-one up there with the assistant coaches all the time, right?
Put on
And
one full court.
just battle it out. Yeah, on just like a small half court, but you had to play D, you had to get back after your shot, and that just became like the battleground. And then it kind of picked up and turned into more. But yep, I remember things like that for sure.
That's crazy you say that. When I visited Al down in Santa Barbara, that's what we did on like a Friday night. We played one-on-one full court for like 3 hours.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I remember being, it was impossible to get tired back then. I just remember having so much energy. That's what I remember about college days. I could play all day. So for little context, Jay, I went to UC Santa Barbara, and across the hall from me lived Sam's older brother, Matt. So when you first move in, they have a sign up, Al Harris, Alameda, Matt Allen, San Francisco. I'm like, oh, bruh's from the Bay, where I grew up. So eventually Matt and I become inseparable, really close friends. And he also was a very good high school player. We'll probably get him on this show at some point. But I would go to practice, come back, grab Matt. We'd go to the rec center and just destroy, non-athletes at the rec for another 2 or 3 hours afterwards. After practicing. And then, Sam would come down and visit his brother. And we'd take him to the rec with us and go destroy everybody or play ones. And I just remember just having all the energy in the world. All I wanted to do was play basketball for hours and hours and hours on it. So anyway, funny that you were
side note.
Right on that. It was the same with us. We'd go play the football players at Eastern Kentucky. They would be in there, especially in the spring and things. So after we get done with individual workouts, as soon as you got out of class, we all headed there. And I think that's when you kind of find out, the guys that love you're talking about. It's not just a thing like, I'm good at this, I'm doing it. It's really something that you're dedicating yourself and getting better at. But the best part is that enjoyment when you get to a level where you're succeeding in it. There's a lot you can take from it, and it gives and gives.
Yeah. What are some of the memorable games from your college career for you?
Yeah, you guys got big rivals?
So we our rivals, I guess, we always had the Murray States. Moorhead stayed in the conference. Austin Peay was always good. Moorhead had Kenneth Reed there for a bit, and that was there was a little rival there because we had both these winning streaks that were going on and things, and we ended theirs and then at their place, and they then literally came to ours and ended ours. But some of the favorite memories would easily be, so it's my junior year, just starting off. We got this little CBE classic, something like that. A team like Pittsburgh and things like that, they're a big one in it. And then we got a couple other ones, but it's 3 games in 3 nights. And my parents, Minnesota, working class, great people, but they weren't able to be at a lot of the games. So they flew down for those games, and we won Friday, won Saturday, and then we had this Sunday game. And it was against UTSA, I'll never forget. And, I'm doing really well in the first 2 games. I'm having a good start to the junior year. I'm feeling good about myself. My parents are here. And then I'll never forget, like, that 3rd game came and talking about being tired, and we were just done as a team, right? We were just all gassed, down like 15 at half. I got 0 points in the first half, right? Because I'm not jacking. I'm literally just tired. I'm moving the ball, and it's just not one of those games for us. And then, coach comes in at halftime, and, usually when you're down, coach is coming in, you're just like, oh shit, here we go. I'm about to hear it, where's the effort? But I think he saw it, and he was like, you know what, guys, like, we can do this. We can do this, no effort. And then we were walking out, and this guy, I tell you about Ted Hotel, and he came up to me and he's like, man, you shoot it every fucking time you get it. I was like, all right, I kind of had a green light, but I was like, all right, I'm going for it. And so we just made a run, as a team. It wasn't me at all, but just as a team, we made this run. And then I think we're down 1 with like 25 seconds left. We get to stop. We have the ball. And now, here, put the hand up. I'm ready to go. Top of the key, wave him off first. All right, I'm good. I go to do this in and out move and one of my knees buckles, right? I cross myself up. So I go in and out behind the back as I'm sliding on one knee and save it. And I just like barely get it off to my guy. But I pop right back out, right? Hands back out. I need it back, and he throws it to me and I look, and now I think there's like 15 or something like that. And I waved him over and he came and set a screen and I dribbled behind it and just launched and just netted it, one of those games. And then we got to stop coming back down and we won, and my parents got to see it all.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was just like a big culmination of everything right there. But yeah, that was one of the better memories for sure, without a doubt.
That's awesome.
So cool.
On my birthday.
Stop it, bro.
Yeah, I always got the cherry on top. I was
Wow,
there at the end.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Bro, Monster junior year. Do you remember scouts being at any of the games, or do you remember thinking to yourself, man, I'm good enough to be in the league? Or talk me through, that season in particular. You just destroyed it.
I started with the Pittsburgh game. Literally went to Pitt junior year, and I had like 24. And I remember Ashton Gibbs, had been on TV. He was doing really well that year, and I went and had like 24 on him and Brad Wanamaker. And those guys were pretty highly recruited.
Brad Wanamaker had an incredible career.
Yep. And then so you get a couple guys after that, they start buzzing you up, like, hey, those are league guys, this,
yeah,
so that thought, it didn't really develop fully. Like, I think once you get older, you really understand the opportunity you had. But, if you're thinking about the league like that, but yeah, it was that game that really I was like, okay. And then coming after that junior year, I had a good year, shot it well, played well. I was pretty much injury free. I was nagged with some of those. And at the end of the year, I was starting to get calls, things like that. Assistant coaches would tell me that, the start of next year, there's going to be a 3-game tournament, and all these NBA scouts are going to be there ready for you. So it was kind of culminating into my senior year. And then, as people do, I got a little too big for my britches and made some choices. And then, to start the next year, I got suspended for the first 3 games of the year, right? Wow. Just for some stuff I was doing. So when I went there and wasn't suited up and all those teams were sitting in the stands, I think that was kind of the end of it for me at that point, because I wasn't one of those all-star guys. They get a bunch of chances, and that, there's something different about what they are. But yeah, that was kind of the beginning and end of it for me as far as hearing from the league.
That had to be tough mentally, man. Did you find yourself, did that affect your confidence? Did that affect your joy playing the game? Or how'd you feel at that moment? And then how'd you get yourself out of that?
Yep. So, as any athlete, I took the egotistical approach, when I got suspended, I was
athletes big egos? No, never.
Yeah, right. It's a blessing and a curse, but I had this ego. So yeah, coming back into that year, I was a little bit upset about it. And I'll never forget, I got suspended the first 3 games. And in my opinion, I'm clearly the best player on the team. I was, I believe, the year before as well. And when I talk about a team, I'm not talking scoring or anything like that. It's more so passing and all that. But yeah, I came in and I was feeling good my senior year. And the 4th game of the year, I'll never forget. So I get done with my suspension, 4th game, and I'm like, all right, I'm back, whatever. My coach doesn't start me. And I'll never forget, that was just that was a little breaking point for me, because I was weak mentally. I'm just like, wow, now he's going to embarrass me like that, because I obviously should be out there. And then after that, he started me again. Things started going well. We went to Cincinnati, and then I had a little ankle injury, kept me out. We actually came home to Minnesota a couple weeks after that. And I'll never forget, I was so excited for that game. And it was a bizarre game. I'll never forget. It was like 10 seconds left before the half. We're passing around. I hit a 3, tie game right at halftime. For us, Eastern Kentucky, we're pretty excited about that. Well, they throw it in and they hit like a half quarter. I'll never forget how much the momentum got sucked out of our team. Rather than being like, hey, we're right here. All right. We only got 20 minutes left. It just sucked it right out of us. And then they beat us by like maybe 15 or something like that. But yeah, those are some some memories that I have, and then that the NBA experience as well.
And then senior year, where's your first place you go? You sign with an agent? You go straight to Euro?
Nope. So mine was kind of like that, but it was just I had some guys reach out, just how they do, find you on email, get a hold of somebody, get your information, send it to you,
Yeah.
and he wanted to meet, and so I went and met him after my senior year, and he kind of talked about, he's over in the central part of Europe, he knows what he's doing, he's got a good feel about me, and at that time, I don't know how it was for you, Al, but it's like you're almost looking for that reassurance again. Right. So, when he's telling me he believes that, I'm that type of player, that kind of kicked me up another notch. But yeah, he had one person come watch me. I'll never forget. It was kind of the same thing. Like 20 minutes into the workout, he's like, all right, cool. Right. You're gonna sign with us and we're good, and we'll go from there. But yeah, the process of an agent was just, I wish I would have reached out maybe and found a little bit more information about it and learn from guys. I think that's why it's cool that you're doing this podcast, bringing guys on there with if they can share a little bit of what they learned and pass it down to the youth. That's kind of what the point of all this is. But yeah, I had somebody hit me up, and I just kind of went with them quick. I always made split decisions. But it turned out well. He brought me over there and gave me some big opportunities. I ended up in the league that Al's in, so I must have been doing something right.
Yeah, man, balling out of control. I mean, so we touched on a lot right there. So I just want to recount, like, for me, um, the thing you said about confidence and looking for that reassurance, that's so big, is just if you have nothing else, if there's anything worth developing as a young player, it's confidence. And for me, and I think for most athletes, confidence comes from putting in an insane amount of work. So I've practiced this move and this shot so many times that I feel I deserve to make it in the game. And I feel no problem pulling it out against the other team's best defender because I've mastered it. So the confidence, if that ever starts to waver, that's where you see players have the biggest struggle, right? Or, a 95% free throw shooter all of a sudden with the game on the line go 0 for 2. That's all mental, that's all confidence. And that's something that in whatever way you can, you need to work to constantly keep at a high. So, it's great that your agent gave you that. And I remember having a dip in confidence when my name wasn't called in the draft and kind of thinking to myself, well, if I'm not one of the best in the world, then do I even want to continue this path? So in terms of picking an agent for me, I had one already because I was doing some pre-draft workouts and stuff like that. But I had a confidence dip when it came to, okay, no team has offered you that NBA contract. So that makes you an overseas guy. When up to that point, I really did firmly believe I was a league guy. And so that's a really tough moment to like, okay, confidence hit. Now let me pack a bag, go to a country I don't know anything about and can't speak the language in, part of the world I don't know about, league I don't know about, and trust this agent I don't know very well that he set me up for success. And, I had a maybe less confident rookie year than I should have had. So that's a big piece that you touched on. I just wanted to kind of like lean in on that as well. Yep. And then, yeah, man, pro career for you was stellar, though. We ended up playing together in the Bundesliga, first division Germany. And the year before, I think, did you lead Kirchheim, a second division Germany team, to a phenomenal season? I think you were the best player, literally the best player in the entire league. And then our club, Bremerhaven, was just all over you. Like, please come play for us and save us, right? So,
not quite like that.
If nothing else, share a little bit about that season prior to, and then we can talk about us playing together.
Well, yeah, my first year overseas, I don't know how some guys are. I wasn't ready. I had been working out, doing my thing, but man, we got off that flight. I remember they flew us right to the track, and I watched them guys do a workout that I had never, I'd never seen somebody do unless they were probably in track. So I was just thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then I was like, but we don't do that very often, do we? And they all kind of laughed. And then next day, 5 miles, right? Like 9 a.m. Hey, we're meeting out here. Because I went early. I went like August 3rd. But they put us right on that track and I wasn't ready. And I just remember then we did it again 2 days later. And we did it 2 days later, just 5 miles. He was building this team up. We had a coach Thomas Glauser, but he was building us up. And just through that running is when it really changed, right? Because the first day I was nowhere near the front, right? I maybe finished somewhere from the back, but as it went on, I just got stronger and stronger. And then at some point it turned to where I got in really good shape, probably a month in. And what happened is when we would hit the last mile, right? Because everyone kind of jogged somewhat together, a couple different groups. But what would happen is I would leave the front group. I would take off and I would just sprint and I would just sprint and run. And then there was this hill at the end, and I'll never forget, that was probably maybe a quarter mile. But from that point on, I would sprint as hard as I could every time to the finish. And I just got in incredible shape that way. And then you start playing, you get in these games, I'm not even sweating until, almost halftime, right? I'm just in this type of shape. And I think that's a big thing that I learned from my shooting as well, is that's why my shooting numbers were high that first year. When I went home for Christmas, I was shooting like 63 from 3-point. I was shooting like 60 from the field, and I was shooting, I think 59 or 60 from the free throw line. It was just I was just dogging it at the free throw line. But being in shape, is something that really changed my career. And what I learned there is that's a big part of your shot is your legs, because if I don't have to worry about them being there at the end of the game, then it's just all my focus and my follow through. So yeah, but that year came and went. I had a couple Minnesota guys on the team. It was great. Oh my goodness, did we have fun. And then playoffs came, we just didn't get it done. And then I went home a couple weeks, and then Doug Spradley, our head coach, our second year, called me, you want to come out here, and the Bundesliga is one of the best that I've seen out there. So I was all in.
Your first year was in Germany as well?
Yep. So I went Pro A first year, second division, and then my second year I went to the first division.
Got it.
Yep.
How was adjusting just as a person from life in America to living in Germany? Can you talk about some experiences there with the different language, with being on your own in Europe, and just what you remember from that?
Yeah, quickly. I mean, I don't know how it goes for the rest of us hoopers, but quickly I would say it was the cooking. I was no chef in college. I relied on them school lunches a lot, or what they had for us. So when I went out there and it was time to cook, and I'm tired after a couple practices, it was, man, I made a lot of spaghetti out there. I'm talking about, not that I made my own tomato sauce and did it all like that, like just straight spaghetti and then spaghetti sauce all the time at night, because I could eat it quick and I could relax. But I think that was one of the things for sure.
Yeah. What was your favorite German meal?
Probably schnitzel. I like that.
Yeah. So
I did enjoy that. The potatoes were always nice out there. Kartoffeln.
And then, man, he's got his words. And then, let's talk about playing together. What do you remember from playing with Doug Spradley? What do you remember about our team in Bremerhaven, Germany? And tell me some thoughts from your perspective about that time period.
Yep. Well, just the start when I got there, I wasn't in great shape that year. I tried to be, but I remember I wasn't again. And we started doing those jogs. I think that's where maybe you kind of hear guys talk, and I kind of went your way a little bit, just because I remember you and the captain of the team, just the way you guys spoke and what you were about. I went that way. But I remember practices where we would be going at it against each other, and it was cool because at the end of the day we always knew we were going to be boys. I remember days where you'd come up to me like, all right, man, I'm going to go a little harder. And what really excited me about those days, because as players, sometimes you just take it easy on each other, you're going through it. But when those days when you'd say I'm coming harder, I just remember it excited me so much, because I knew I was going to be pushed, and I'm not going to back down either. So it's going to be great. But yeah, I remember that. I remember we had a team of scorers. We had the quick steps, the hop, the craftiness, and the length with the bounce. Then that's when you were still dunking, throwing reverse.
Many years ago.
I remember you went baseline in preseason and you spun the opposite way and did like a 180. We lost this game. It was kind of funny, but I'll never forget you did that on the baseline. I'm like, oh shit. All right, I'm in the BBL now. Like, this is what cats do, because I was a little taken back. So that was my awakening to it. I remember that. But yeah, we had a good time when I was there. and we had a good team. You know, I think that team, uh, we had good leadership and we had solid coaching, but we just lacked. We had a lot of scorers and guys who could do a lot of individual things. I think we had a lot of the pieces. The puzzle just didn't mix that year. As far as, you know, like the point guard, we had a scoring PG where maybe if we were going and keeping people in a rhythm, we'd be all right. You know, it would come down to just at the end, he's taking the shot. So things like that. But yeah, I just remember we were fitted well, and we were a great group of guys. Man, did we have fun together? You know, the teams that would go out to eat together, just to be together and talk a little noise. Those were the ones that were fun to be on.
Yeah, it's funny because it was far from my most successful pro team, but maybe one of my most enjoyable in terms of chemistry. And, you know, for me, that was a pretty frustrating year because I was coming off maybe my best professional season ever. And like you said, as a scorer, I was more of a scorer just for my reputation and how I got my contracts. And then it was frustrating to be on a team where there were also four other guys that were expected to lead the team in league and scoring. And not even to say that we couldn't all play together, but it was just a little bit of somebody had to, the message wasn't going to each person about who's going to do what when. And so I felt like in those practices, you know, there was a level of intensity. One, for me to kind of show coach, hey, you're not using me to the best of my ability. Two, we were at the same position and both playing very good basketball. So I felt like it was iron sharpening iron each day in practice going against each other. So I remember that for real. And then I will say, man, to this day, all the teams I've played on so many teams in my life. I think I was doing math the other day, 28 years of organized basketball. That was by far the most I enjoyed in terms of spending time with my teammates, mostly with you and with Jacob Birchie, also a few other guys. But we were so close that at the end of that season, we took a vacation all together and dipped out to Hawaii. So
yeah, that was memorable too. Yeah,
don't normally do that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
feel how much we clicked.
Yeah. Well, was that how it was for you too? I know there was a lot of guys, you know, I kind of connected with over there, and you'd come back to the States and you'd at least try and link up, you know, when you get to their state as you're moving around in the summer. Did you have a lot of people like that too?
Yeah, not a ton. I mean, I always, at that time, I was, you know, for the most of those years, I was single. I didn't have kids. So it was easy for me to maneuver. But let's say we're in a small town and I'm really close with a teammate who's married or who's married and has kids. Then in the summer, it's easy for me to get to them. Wherever you're at, I'm just going to pull up, come hang out. It's really easy. But then, you know, it's hard for them to come visit you. Or then the next year, you guys go to two different countries and it's really hard to keep that tight rhythm. So there's something about being teammates with someone. If you hit it off and then you're also teammates, and then you're also living in a foreign country and they're one of 10 people you know maybe in that whole country, that's just a ridiculous bond, right? Hours and hours of road trips, hotels, late practices, tough games, bad losses. I think even bring people together even better than winning seasons do, where it's just we have to undergo the same trials and tribulations and try to pull each other out of them. Those bonds are really just something that you can't recreate. I don't get those at work. I don't get those with neighbors and stuff like that. That's a different level of connection. And so sometimes you know, it's really well for that moment, and then it's hard to sustain when we go on and do other things. But sometimes, like in our case, we talk almost weekly. You know, it just lasts forever, and you know it's going to last forever when you're in that moment playing together. And so I'm happy that happened for us as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too. You spend so much time together. You know, you're at 2 practices a day. We're on the bus. Maybe we're getting a meal together as well. You're getting to see that person throughout the day and what they're going through in their life. You know, you're talking about different things, sometimes a lot deeper than just, you know, what's new with you. You're talking about family and kind of what you want to accomplish or gain, what goals we have outside of basketball, you know, in the real world as well. So yeah, those friendships I've made on certain teams are definitely, you know, long lasting, will continue to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, you got any friends that you made playing basketball that you kept for years and years and have to this day?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's like, you know, the group chats are still alive.
Yeah.
And so the, you know, the team group chats are still alive, and just being able to stay connected with players and even coaches. You know, I just texted my college coach the other day just to check in. You know, he was a good dude. I'm forever grateful to him. And yeah, those are like you said, those are forged in the fires together. Like you said, tough losses, bringing people together. Yeah, and that's like time. You don't get to choose whether you spend them with or without them. Like you have to. And so that's when some of the best friendships and bonds are formed. Absolutely. Are you playing in those? One of those Kyries on the table right there, Justin?
Oh no, just I just try to find some hoops related. So I got some KDs because I always keep a pair
Oh
of shoes
yeah.
in my car, right? Wherever I go, I'm gonna have a pair of shoes and some sweats in the car. So if a game comes up, I'll be ready. Actually, when I was young, it was funny. All the way through high school, I always wore a pair of shorts under my jeans. Just
Always.
the game started,
Always.
I had them on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was ready for it.
Are you still playing a lot now?
Nah, maybe a couple times a week most. I went to a Lifetime the other day and I got one of those runs that are good, no
Yeah.
arguing, just there for an hour and a half, play 5-6 games, came out victorious. It's one of those where you kind of live it up because it feels good to go out there in some of those rec leagues and,
Right.
give out a few buckets.
Absolutely.
Brings that confidence back up, puts me exactly where I needed to be,
Right.
egotistically. Yep.
Plus the exercise itself is unrivaled, right? Get
Oh
those
my
same
gosh. You wouldn't
juices.
even know
Yeah.
you're running for an hour and a half,
Right.
You're
Right.
done. You can't believe it. Where if I went and tried to run for 30 minutes on the track, it's gonna be a tall task for me.
He said
you hit me with that. You asked me my
go-to
go-to
move.
move.
Yeah, you need a
It's
bucket.
funny,
What you
I didn't even realize I had one. And then a former teammate from UCSB, he and I were playing together in LA in like a rec league. And he said, what's this move you keep doing? And I had no idea what he was talking about. And then he said it, he described it, and I realized, yeah, I've been doing that consistently for a good 10 years. And it's just in and out through the legs. Yeah. So I'm like squared up with somebody and I'm just coming straight towards them, straight at them, in and out through the legs. And what normally happens is it's so quick. I got to the point where it was so fast that people kind of like stutter a little bit. Like they like feel like, oh, well, he's about to try to cross me, work me. And they drop their hands. And I just pull up for a shot right in their face, uncontested. Really? And I would say it got to the point where 9 out of 10 times someone's hands were down or they start taking steps back because they're thinking like a whole series of moves is coming. And it's just super fast in and out cross and straight up to my shot. And then it got to the point where I knew, if I had done it earlier in the game, I knew that I could slow it down a little bit and let them catch up and then hesitate and they would jump immediately. So it became really unstoppable because I had 2 options and you didn't know which one I was going to rely on. Yeah. And I was super consistent with both. I would say like I hit that shot more than half the time if I did the move first. And then also, if you got hit hard on it earlier, like, geez, this guy just froze me and then pulled in my face. Now you're kind of like over aggressive, like trying to like get to the shot because you remember it from before. Yeah. And I'm hezzy right by you to the rim.
Setting up that second one. Oh, of course. It's funny. That's a big time move. And what you're talking about, where you get people, they kind of get staggered. I had a buddy when we were younger, Nate Walters was a league guy for a bit, playing overseas still. He had just a filthy in and out cross. And what he would do is, he'd come up just hezzy in and out cross. And every time, they would be backpedaling. And then that at that point, it's like you said, you get comfortable shooting that, once you get them back, if you're comfortable just shooting right then, that's really a go-to move. It's that simple, something that you can get the space needed.
And it really feels like your shot percentage is higher than just say, oh, I was randomly dribbling and I pulled up a 3. Because you've actually practiced that move in game more than you realize, right? Because it's your go-to. So you also have the rhythm of getting from that to your shot and off. And man, there's just nothing like having a move when the ball's in your hand and the clock's winding down, the game's on the line. Having a move that you feel 90% confident you will score on. That was awesome. So yeah. Bro, you are the rookie of the year for the Drew League 2019. The Drew League is infamous amongst NBA guys, overseas players, local high school guys, kids in LA. Some unbelievable, absurd talent comes through there. And you absolutely shut that league down your first time playing it. Can you tell us, first of all, how did the opportunity to play in the Drew come about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the opportunity was just a spur of the moment thing. One of my college buddies, one of my college teammates actually lived out there, and he just hit me up after we had been out there probably a year. He was like, "Hey, come play in this little Saturday league with me, you know, just for
Little
fun."
Saturday league.
Just a
Yeah.
little thing.
Little Saturday.
No, that's not part of the Drew. But so it wasn't the Drew, it was a different one. And I went and I did well. You know, I was very out of shape yet, but I could still hoop and play with them. And then one of the coaches for the Drews was there, and he had just saw me play. He kind of came up to me afterward and, you know, asked me kind of the same thing, like, "You want to come to a tryout?" You know, I wasn't gifted this free one the first time. They said, like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to come to a tryout." And so yeah, I went and did all that, and obviously it was great. He did a couple workouts with him, but that just started randomly is how I got in there. And it's kind of funny as it moved into the Drew League. So first week, right? First week we kind of went through this thing, put a team together. First week I show up, right? Drive in with my girlfriend. If you've ever been to the Drew, it's kind of an elevated reserved parking. They got a gate and everything. And I pull up and I'm like, "All right, yeah, I'm here for the Drew League players." And guy kind of looks at me and he's like, "You're a player?" I'm like, "Yep, yeah, I play for this team. You know, this is who I am." And he's just like, he went and talked to somebody else and he came back. He's like, "Lot's full, man." Like they didn't let me in. And
Big
I was like
time.
sitting there thinking, I'm like, "Man, I see a lot of parking spots." They didn't think I was a player, you know. I got the little wave going on, so they didn't think I was a player. So I'll never forget, we parked outside on the street for that one.
Wow.
And then it just kind of led into a thing where, yeah, you see these guys playing, but it's just such a pure form of basketball because everyone's talking, right? And it's not a talking like just we're being mean, this and that. It's a talking like, because we talk about the mental game. Basketball is such a mental game, right? And out there at its purest form, they're just going to talk and see if they can break you mentally, right?
Talking trash, you mean? Talking smack.
Yeah, because I think people have a misconception of where that leads to, you know, like I might be talking to you because you hit a bucket or two on me, like, "Dang, okay, you got one on me." Like, now I'm going to start talking to you because I'm just trying to get you to change your rhythm. You're in such a good flow. I got to try and snap you out of it. So I'm going to start talking to you. And yeah, and it's just a war of words, but we saw some unbelievable talent in there. Played for a team called Baxter's Legacy. You know, I'm 30 years old at this point. I haven't played competitive basketball in 4 years. I'm like, "Oh boy, should I be out here?" Because I've seen the YouTube, I've seen the Instagram highlights, you know, what goes on there. And yeah, and then first game, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, put up or shut up. You go out there and you just end up competing at the end of the day. And it happens, and then you get to look back on it, and when you realize that, yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of, that's where I kind of once again took off. Yeah,
it's so universal, right? Like at the end of the day, it's basketball, and you've done this a million times.
Yeah, and you really get to see who the alphas are out there, right? Because there's only a certain amount of people who could talk shit. You know, it's easy to talk shit when you're ahead, but you know, how are you gonna keep talking shit when things aren't going well? Because if you stop, now at this point, I know I won, right? So even if you're taking that L, if you start talking, you got to keep talking, and now, so I got to enjoy that part of it quite a bit.
Who were some of the better players you saw at the Drew or had the chance to go up against?
Yep. So some of the guys I played against, I'll just say, and everything like that. So Montrezl Harrell, obviously a league guy. He was there every week. There were guys as far as Brandon Jennings was there, Frank Nitti was there, and just Booker. He was Askia Booker. He was one of the guys who was in the MVP race. He's an overseas guy. But yeah, Jonathan Gibson, I think he was with the Celtics for a bit. Casper Ware Jr. And you know, it's funny about Casper Ware Jr. because his dad had reached out to me. You know, Casper Ware Sr., if guys know a lot about the Drew League, is one of the big names because he used to kind of run it, you know, when he was older. He was one of the big names out there. So once he started talking to me, that's kind of the brotherhood I'm talking about. You know, they accepted me, brought me out there, and yeah, felt like family. You know, Dino Smiley, all the guys in control of the league were always real kind to me. And made it feel like home. I think that was the best part.
It's awesome, man. And you had a moment and a move in a game that eventually made you relatively famous at the Drew and went viral online and on social media. Can you recap that for us?
Yeah, you want to know what's funny about that moment or that move is that was week 10, so it's the last week before the playoffs. We need to win, right? And we were one of the teams who didn't have a lot of pros on our team, but yeah, so I'll never forget that move simply because I'll just prequel it by the night before we had practice. My buddy Darnell Dials, who's the center, we were playing some ones, just hanging out. And then I said, Darnell, just go stand at the 3-point line here once, and I'm going to come down and do these moves, and you tell me, if they work on you. And so I did, 10, 15, 20 moves on him, some the same or whatever. And he was just like, can I be honest? He's like, man, they weren't getting me. And I was like, oh shit, like he's the center and he's saying I'm not getting him. I'm like, oh no. So then I went back to half court and I took off at him. I'll never forget. I ran at him and I threw it right to left. And as soon as my left hand grabs it, I basically just jab right and then stayed going left. And I remember I faked the shit out of him and dunked it, just the night before at practice, and we were laughing about it, this and that. And then the next day, all that happened was it was one of those long rebound situations, or one of those moments where you get the ball and your momentum's going forward because of the pass you got. And I came up and there was a guy waiting for me at the 3-point line. And I never forget, I did that right to left jab step. And I just remember he was gone and I just seen the guy in front of me. And yeah, I was on one. I just took off and usually I'm not a 2-foot jumper. So when I took off, I was like, oh, this might not end well. I probably should have went off a 1. And but no, I just dunked it and yeah, the crowd went crazy. We beat Frank Nidia and Montrezl Harrell that game, Public Enemy, in the last week to get into the playoffs and get a good seed. So yeah, it was amazing to feel welcome like that. I haven't stopped hearing about it then, and I hope that continues because people have been really cool and I think it just helped them appreciate my game a little bit more because I come off as the shooter, smooth, I'm not doing all this. So when I sneak out there and dunk, I think it throws people off a little bit. But no, it was great. They had the announcer. He gave me the nickname Dexter, So, he's on, I think that's part of the Drew that's so cool is they're on the mic the whole time, and they're not just talking down or talking shit the whole time, but they're just talking about people, what he knew. He was informed on everyone and he started calling me Dexter, and he came to me one week and he was just like, hey man, you mind if I call you Dexter? And I was like, damn, I don't know, like why? Just because I got shaggy hair and shit like that, I'm thinking he's messing with me. He's like, no, you're a killer, dude. You're a killer. Yeah, man. It's like, all right, yeah, call me Dexter. So then he started doing it, and yeah, that's how it all came about.
That's super cool. Awesome. That is awesome, man. I love that. And then I guess we have to tap on, before we start to wind down, we have to tap on the end of a career, legendary career, just amazing opportunities you've had to play and in big locations. You've made a name everywhere you've played and everywhere you've gone. And first, I guess I should double check. Are we going to see you in the Drew League again, or have you officially hung them up?
I don't know. If I would get back out to California in the next few years, well, I might have a little spring left in my leg. I'd love to try again, but every year you're out of it. Is another year it's going to take to get back into it, just because it's to be at that level of an athlete that it takes to really perform and be satisfied with your performance. I think that's something that's in it as an athlete. It takes a while to get to that standpoint, but no, unless something comes up, I don't foresee it, but I'll always continue to hoop a little bit. That's for sure.
Well, can you talk about, though, at least from a professional standpoint, making the decision to finish playing and retire? And I just know it's going to be tough on so many pros, no matter where they're at and how prepared they think they are. Can you talk about how that was for you, how you came to the decision, and just maybe share some insight on that moment for you?
Yeah, for me, it was a continuation of buildup of things, and what those things ultimately were injuries. At some point, they just take a toll on you. I didn't have the big ACLs or things like that, but you just get injuries that would cost you maybe a month here or there when you're doing well, and that process of always going back and getting yourself right and healing and fixing, gets tough over the years. Definitely, being injured is real tough. And I had a wrist injury out there in Belgium that year. And it was one of those things where I started doing the rehab and that doubt crept in, and at the same time I was getting a little older and I was thinking about other things I wanted to do. So I started making, different moves in that direction. And then ultimately, I moved out to California and just decided to, start that post career, and didn't go right into basketball, have some things that I do, coach, camps like that I enjoy, some training, but didn't do a coaching position. Is that something you think you could do?
Man, I ask myself that all the time. Sam is a coach at a pretty well-known basketball program, high school program in San Francisco. So I kind of scratched my itch through him, and I talked to him about how he enjoys coaching and working with kids, and do they listen and respond? Where's the hunger level? And it eats at me, the amount of knowledge I think I've acquired around the game. And I definitely feel more now than I did when I first retired. I guess the desire to kind of do something with that and share that and hit other people, which, was the foundation of this podcast, was kind of those yearnings. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I would ever be comfortable, especially when I think of coaching, I think probably college or pro level. I don't know if I'd be comfortable back in that lifestyle of having to pack up a bag and say goodbye to everybody I love in order to go do my job, right? Coaching opportunities available in Maine. Okay, now it's available in Puerto Rico. Okay, now it's available in Norway. That was the toughest part about playing pro, was just, while it was fun and enjoyable, saying goodbye to your loved ones, not having a set community, and kind of always being on trial. Every year you might have to go somewhere else. So coaching feels a little bit like a continuation of that. But I think I might be, more in the realm of, hey, whatever area I'm in, any kids that are really serious about the game, because that's how I was as a kid. So that's how I would probably help, being open to training them and doing what I can to help prepare them for the next level. That might be something in my future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you got camps going, you got workouts going in the Minnesota area. So we'll link all of that information down below. I think it's awesome that you're giving back in that way. And then tell us what you do for a living now, and if you find that some of the skills you've picked up as an athlete help you to be successful in your career now.
Yeah, so now I'm into contracting. Kind of got into the business side of that, on the real estate side, doing things in that world. And it's some of the things that I take with me from basketball, just to put it plainly, is I think realizing throughout this whole thing that the obstacle is the opportunity. We're all met with them, and it's only as big as simply facing it. That's how these people overcome it, because they don't know the outcome. So in the meantime, when you get to that breaking point, wherever it is, if you choose that this obstacle has now led me to the opportunity to overcome it, and you make that decision, it's as easy as that, is developing and getting better and things like that.
I love that, man. Thank you so much for sharing that.
We always ask just random stuff. Who was your hype-up song? Like, what kind of music did you listen to when you were getting going?
Mm-hmm. So I got two answers for that. The one, my junior year, we made it a mockery. If you've ever heard, let's see your music knowledge. You ever heard "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers?
No, not that I know of.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, we came out to that my junior year, but my senior year was "You Don't Know" by Eminem, right? Jumped on the white boys train and just took all that and got myself fired up before the game.
Absolutely. You got a favorite hoop shoe that you played with in your career?
I do. So it would be the Kobe 10 high tops. After he came back from the Achilles, he made some.
Oh, the super high ones.
Yep. Yeah, I love those. Man, those were great. I would say those for sure.
Who's your favorite NBA player to watch?
Now it would be Kyrie Irving.
Same. Nice.
Incredibly creative. Yeah, it's all instinctual.
And who was somebody that you guarded, probably as a pro, but maybe even back in college, high school, wherever, that just absolutely busted your ass, or was just a phenomenal player and hard for you to stop?
I wouldn't even know who they are, but I guess yeah, the only person that really just busted my ass was in AAU one time. Some dude, we were out in can't remember where it was, if it was Indiana, and some dude, he was out there giving me buckets, and then oh, I can't remember his name though. No.
Yeah.
Selective amnesia. That's smart, man.
Yeah.
I
I didn't want to put that live out there.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Man, you already hit us with a bunch of stories, so if you don't have one more, it's totally fine. But to end it, we always ask somebody, you know, everybody I know has like crazy hoop stories, especially overseas, right? Bus broke down, played in a gym where rainwater was coming through the ceiling or whatever. Just want to ask if you have, or, you know, just even hanging out with teammates and stuff like that, but just curious if you have a crazy basketball story from your whole time period that you can share.
My overseas one would be Kirkheim, Germany. So got brought in middle of the season here to try and help push this team up to the playoffs, and it starts off well, right? So we had just won a big game. Owner, manager, everyone's in the locker room, you know, handing out beers, hitting the rah. It's all good. Owner says, you know, we're going to the club tonight. It's on me. And I was just like, all right, let's do this. Okay, you know, so head out to the club, one of those things, just a great night. Everyone's just enjoying it. The owner's taking care of everything. Oh my goodness. Well, I had realized I forgot my wallet at home. So we get outside after the bar, and you know how the taxis are. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have any money. I hit the owner, and he's like, I was just like, hey, can you just hit me for this taxi? You know, hoping to get like a 20, take care of it. And he gives me 100. I'm just like, oh, best night ever. You know, I'm making even more money. You know, I'm feeling just a little bit extra than I should. So I'm like, you know what? I know that I only drive on this road and take like 2 rights. So that house is right over here. You know, it's probably even shorter if I just walk it. So I'm just like, and I got $100, you know, if worst comes worse, maybe something's open. I'll jump in there real quick. You know, I got all these ideas, but whatever, I take off and I'm just walking. And it seems like the city somewhat yet, you know, lights are getting a little lower, but I'm around there and I'll never forget. I just hear running water and I'm thinking like, man, what the heck is that? You know, running water, but I just keep walking. And I finally took a step. And then literally all that happened is I remember I fell into this river, right? And and I just fell in right offshore, and then whoosh, I just get taken right away a little bit by the waves. And so I like went down and I hit my hand real bad, you know, and the hand that's carrying my money, I hit it, and not my head, luckily, but I'll just never, because I came popping up out of the water after I know whatever. And all I remember seeing is literally the light that was on the bridge over there where I should have been walking is reflecting on the water. And I see my €100 just floating down the river away from me. Right? So now it's life or death. So I'm absolutely headed to the other side. Cause I mean, I would say this thing was like 30, 40 yards wide. You know, this was a real river. I should have been doing a little better. Well, now I'm going around the town and I'm flagging down taxis without any money anymore, you know, and they see me soaking wet. It's 4 a.m. because that's how late they party there. And it's the middle of winter and I got a t-shirt and a jacket on while they're soaking wet. They're just like, no, American, you know, you're not coming, not with us. And literally, finally, I get to this guy and I was like, dude, you're not going to believe me, but please do. If you drive me home, I'm going to give you €200. And you're literally just going to go down this street and that street, but I need to now. I'm freezing. And he's like, okay. And I'll never forget. He drove me right home. I went upstairs, grabbed my money and gave it back to him. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like finally bed. And I just passed out. Well, then I wake up the next day and I just remember start thinking like, wow, did that really happen? There's no way. And I pulled the covers off. And all I got on are my boxers and my black Chuck Taylors that are just full of mud from walking in the river. and that was my story, man. And I was just like, I gotta settle down now. I hit my limit here.
You're locked in. That's
Jay,
awesome.
that's literally the best story I've ever heard. I think we might not put that in there just because I don't know if you were going to work with future contractors and stuff if you wanted to hear that story, but that was phenomenal, man.
Oh, I tell them all the time, dude. If it's not too inappropriate, do what you wish.
Oh gosh, okay, it might get greenlit. I think I'm gonna. Yeah, bro,
Jay, you were awesome, man. You're full of knowledge. You had awesome stories. You spoke with so much passion too, man. You were great. That's all good. That was so much fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank y'all so much. This has been Justin Stommes. He's so legit. He's had such a long career that we might have to get him back on at some point because there's so many stories we didn't even go over. But Justin, thank you for doing this, man. Thank you for being such a dear friend, a great teammate, an ambassador of the game. And we'll put all your links and info down below for those in the Minnesota area that are fortunate enough to ever be coached by you or attend the camp. I can swear right here, right now on Talking Swish that this guy can play the game of basketball, and you'd be all the better for it. But thanks for coming on the podcast, man. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, Sam Al, thanks for letting me dip my toes in there, man.
Yes, awesome. Sir. He's Justin. Awesome. That's Sam. I'm Al, and we're Talking Swish.